over the last couple of years, there have been a few doctors, medical practitioners, and scientists who have gone against the establishment line. And now, as we're moving out of that period into a whole new period, I'm going to be talking to one of these doctors to finding out about what's next, what are they doing, and what can we do to keep ourselves healthy and safe.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to Dr. Ahmad Malik. Now, before I introduce him, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, well, I don't know if I'm going to post it on YouTube because there's lots of stuff I post on Odyssey, bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey that I don't post on YouTube because YouTube is a little bit sensitive about certain topics. And if you are watching me on Odyssey, please comment. And most of all, subscribe. It's free to subscribe, and you might even earn a little bit of crypto for watching videos on the Odyssey. So just subscribe, email sign up, nothing else, and of course subscribe to my channel. All right. Hi, Ahmad. Thank you so much for making yourself available.
Pleasure.
Yeah, you are Dr. Ahmad Malik. You're a surgeon, and I thought surgeons were always misters rather than doctors.
They are, but you know, it confuses a lot of people. And I realize on Twitter, there's a lot of people who are not from the UK. So if you say Mr., they'll be like, good for you.
Yeah, that's right. Some bloke off the blockchain talking about medical issues. What do they know, right? Okay, so you're Dr. Yeah, what do they know? So you're Dr. Ahmad Malik, and what kind of surgeon are you?
Orthopedic.
Orthopedic, back doctor, right?
Foot and ankle.
Foot and ankle. Foot and ankle. Okay.
Close.
Okay, now you're based in the UK, and since March 2020, we've been going through a rather interesting and different period to how life was before. And my understanding, because I came across you a few months ago on Twitter, and by the way, I'm going to have links to his Twitter, and I do recommend you follow him because it's a very entertaining and informative Twitter that he has, right? I find it very, very useful. At some point, I don't know when, is that you spoke out against the orthodoxy and against a particular medical intervention and particular non-pharmaceutical interventions. Can you say when and why?
Actually, that video that you're talking about wasn't the first time I spoke up.
Sure.
So the one that you're probably alluding to that kind of went viral on Twitter was the one where I simply asked, what's going on? You know, a lot of my patients, a lot of my family, friends, staff members are coming up to me and telling me about weird and wonderful, diseases, illnesses, sudden deaths. And I'm seeing it. And my thought was, we need to look into this. We need to investigate what is actually happening because, let's be honest, this is the biggest experiment on human history, on humans in history. So that's all I said. It was a video just saying we need to look into this, and maybe we need to just pause what's going on. Nothing particularly controversial, but it took off. A lot of people saw it, got the attention of certain people and the private hospital groups. So I got a little, rap across the knuckles saying, "Come on, stop this! Stop tweeting and stop breaching our social media policy guidelines or whatever." And stick to your scope of practice. So I think what they meant by that was stick to fixing bunions.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I actually think my scope of practice is patient safety first and foremost.
Yes. Sorry, what's happened? My phone's just gone off. It went off on the Bluetooth speaker.
And the thing is, I spoke up before actually last in 2021. Yes. That was 2022. Sorry, beginning of 2022, about the mandates. So the mandates were being introduced, and it wasn't. What people don't understand is it wasn't just the NHS frontline workers. It was NHS frontline, back staff, healthcare workers, management, secretarial staff, auxiliary staff. Even if you were coming into the hospital to repair a broken fence or change a plug, and you're an outside contractor, you would have been affected and you would have had to be vaccinated. The mandate was affecting everyone, even people who were just contractors coming into the building. And it was also affecting the private hospitals. Now, full disclosure, I've had one shot. Could talk about that another time if you want. But I wasn't planning on having any more.
Right.
So I don't want to have any more. And now suddenly I'm confronted with the possibility that I'm not going to be able to work anymore. My career is going to come to an abrupt end. I won't be able to help my patients anymore. And I'm being forced and coerced into taking something that I don't want to. Now, I've spent 20 years consenting them for procedures and surgeries. I know about consent. I know how to do it. We taught about it. There's great guidance, actually, on the GMC about consent. And there's lots of different things like making sure your patient's well informed, making sure there's no pressure, there's no coercion, there's no punishment for whatever decision they choose to make. Actually, no treatment is an option, and that should be offered to the patient. And finally, whatever your patient decides, you have to respect it. Not just agree with it and go, okay, you respect the patient's decision. So here I am thinking, well, where the frack has informed consent gone? Because I'm being told, take these shots, and if you don't, you can't work, there goes your livelihood. Well, if that isn't coercion, and that's not taking away my rights and my choice, and if that's not tearing up medical ethics and throwing it in the bin, what the hell is? Now, what really, really disappointed me was there was no one speaking up against this. There's 280,000 doctors. And I knew of only one, Dr. Tony Hinton, who's I think he's now retired, I'm not 100% sure, but ENT surgeon, full-time private, winding down, end of his career, and he had nothing really to lose. I've spoken to him, and he said, look, this is ridiculous. And he was quite vocal on Twitter at the time. I reached out to him, and we had a conversation, and we were just in shock that no one else was willing to speak up and challenge this major breach to medical ethics. And so I joined a group of freedom fighters and thinkers called Together Declaration.
Right.
I actually knew some of the people involved in that movement through the Brexit party. So it all gets a bit muddy. It's interesting. I think the people who are anti-authority, anti-supranational states, pro-democracy, pro-libertarian, kind of come together, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Ahmad, forgive me for interrupting you here.
That's all right.
Met a fellow racist, white supremacist, xenophobic, Brexiteer, just like me. You meet Tony Benn, my brother who's a professor of politics, bunch of my cousins in the UK, all of us white supremacists, xenophobic Brexiteers.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how I got together with Together Declaration. And, I was very vocal on my Instagram account. I was never on Twitter because I found it very toxic. I only joined it for the Brexit party, but I kind of kept arm's length. I like pictures and I like educating people. And my Instagram has always been about educating people about health and foot and ankle and whatnot. So I used to message on that saying, no, this is ridiculous, but where is all this going? So I got involved with them. We handed in a petition, 500,000 people. I went on a few marches. I never thought in my 40s I'd be going on marches, but the rebel in me came out. And we overturned the mandates, which was actually incredible. I think it was the only thing that came close to that feeling of euphoria was when we won the Brexit referendum. It was people power, basically, sticking the finger up to the state. So anyway, but after Brexit, I wanted to have a quiet life, fixed feet. And the same after we overturned the mandates, life kind of returned to normal. If people wanted to get jabbed, good for them. Not me, thank you very much. And I was fighting my own battles, I'll be honest with you. My wife and I were on different sides of the fence. Mm-hmm. My priority was trying to get her to wake up. And if anyone has had experience of challenging someone who buys into the narrative, it's incredibly difficult. And actually, the more forward attack, frontal attack you go, the more they back off and run away. Mm-hmm. So I was really struggling. I was creating some tension in our marriage. So I was trying to sort that out, which I have. And the way I did that was actually stop going for the full frontal, outflank them. No, I'm just joking. Basically, I concentrated in love and what we had in common. And then I started asking her I started raising questions. I thought, I'm going to put questions in her head, get her to ask questions. I got her to listen to a few podcasts like Malone and Peter McCullough. And yeah, thankfully, she's woken up now, and we're on the same page. And look, I think when you're in a marriage or in a partnership, it's really important that you're on the same page. It's very difficult to fight a battle when you don't have that support at home.
Yep.
So then when I had all these adverse effects going on, I'll be honest with you, I had a conversation with Dr. Asim Malhotra, and he rang me one morning as I was about to operate and said, hey, I really, would be grateful. Do you think you could do a video? You're talking about these adverse effects. Would you be happy doing a video saying you've been noticing this? I was like, absolutely. It's the truth. I'm not saying anything controversial.
Yep.
So he posted it, I posted it on Twitter, and then everything went crazy. And then when I was threatened and told to stop doing this, and your private practice privileges might be withdrawn, I thought, this is kind of bullying. This is censorship. Freedom of speech. Patient safety relies on freedom of speech. Imagine, if you see a problem, you want to be able to speak up. And take, for example, in the operating theatre, we're always told about having an air of transparency. So what do I mean by that? Say you're a surgeon and you turn up drunk, hungover, you're slurring, you're all over the place. Theatre staff need to be comfortable and open and not intimidated to be able to speak up and say, hey, this isn't right. You shouldn't be able to operate. Or God forbid, they're operating and they're doing something reckless and dangerous. People need to be able to speak up and say, whoa, you need to stop. But if there's a culture of fear and a culture where you're going to be punished, or guess what? People stay quiet. And then mistakes will happen. And that's not what we want. So what you want is an air of openness and transparency. So I am teaching my kids nowadays, they're very young, about bullying. It's rife. All my patients keep complaining about it and their kids being bullied. So I know there's a problem in society with bullying. So I'm teaching my kids about how to deal with bullies. I've had bullies when I was at school as a kid, And what you don't do is run away from them. What you don't do is put your head down, be quiet, and take it. What you do is just stand up. And you know what? You might get a bloody nose, but they won't come back at you. You need to stand up to bullies. So if they said, go off Twitter, don't talk, well, you've seen what happened. I did the exact opposite, and I've been tweeting away like a little bird. And it's interesting you said it's entertaining and funny. I don't mean it to be.
Entertaining and informative. Okay, you're not the funniest tweeter. I have come across funniest tweeters, right? Informative, right? Okay, so why do they? I mean, the thing you said about that they want to punish you. It is an issue of medical. If a doctor says, "No, wait a minute, there's something going on in the population with regards to people's health," who's better qualified than a doctor to speak up about it? Should I, as a council of bureaucrat?
Yes, you should. Yes, you should. No, to that, I think what the last 3 years have taught us is don't trust the experts.
Oh,
okay. Don't trust the scientists. I say now the worst thing you can call me is an expert. Please don't call me an expert.
Sure.
I think it's everybody's duty. I think actually everyone should empower themselves to know what is right and what is wrong. You don't need a degree. You don't need a qualification. That's wrong. Every sovereign human being has the ability to know what's right and what's wrong. And they should have the power and they should have the courage to speak up and say, no, this doesn't feel right. And I would say, actually, if you're listening to all the doctors, then, well, you'd definitely be making all the mistakes.
Oh, because I am completely on the same page. If I listen to experts, I wouldn't have home educated my children. And they're flourishing. If I listen to experts, I wouldn't for the last 11 years be high fat, low carb, be a Punjabi that doesn't eat naan and have all the health improvements that have come from that. If I listen to experts, I suppose Muslim experts, right? I wouldn't have attended Quaker meetings for 10 years. If I listen to experts within the left-wing mainstream, I wouldn't have gone and hunted out Tony Benn and what he was saying about the European Union. And then if I listen to experts, the establishment experts, about these injections, and I don't call them vaccines, about these injections, then I would have had them. And I know, thank goodness for my complete lack of faith in experts, because they are flawed. Just like I am, I'm flawed. They have vested interests. I have vested interests, but my vested interest is me, my family, right? That and my friend. That's my vested interest. So I'm the expert when it comes to my life. So I think
that just shows that you're a selfish, racist, You know,
We've already established I'm a white supremacist
lover. You need to clarify one thing. You know, I'm looking at you and it says crypto rich. There's a crown there. I don't know whether they call you King Crypto.
No.
Crypto. I mean, what do I call you? Rich?
Call me rich. You can call me crypto rich. What happened was I started, by the way, if I listened to experts, including my cousins that work in banking, I wouldn't have bought Bitcoin in 2013 if I'd have listened to them. Right? If they'd have listened to me, they'd have done really, really well. But they've listened to the financial experts. So I started my channel on cryptocurrencies in 2017, April 2017. And I was early enough to be able to get the name Crypto Rich because people want to get rich. That's what they do. People want to get rich. So that's why Crypto Rich rather than Crypto in my real name, because nobody really wants that. And certainly in the beginning, I didn't show my face and stuff. I have been found on social media by families that I've been the child protection social worker for. And I don't really want families, you know, where I've taken their children and removed them and placed them in care to find me too easily. So there you go.
We can talk about that when I set up my podcast. I'd love to talk about that.
The stories I could tell make your heart bleed. And also, just on that, you're going to be setting up a podcast. And one of the things you and I have talked about is about me coming on as a guest to talk about home education.
Definitely.
I think that's getting more and more important given the flavor of schooling with regards to what I think is the sexualization of children, but also anyway, schooling in general anyway. So back to you. So the regulatory authorities are saying you cannot practice as a doctor. Is that what they're saying?
No. So the regulatory authorities haven't actually come for me at all, thankfully, which is great. But if they did, I'd be ready for them. People keep saying that to me. Haven't the GMC investigated you? And I see sometimes I tend to post and ghost, like Joe Rogan says on Twitter. But you know, occasionally I'll see the top comment here and there, and occasionally I'll see someone like, "I'm going to report you to the GMC." I'm like, "Well, go for it. Good for you." Because look, the reality is I've got nothing to fear because one, I've not actually said anything wrong. Two, I'm speaking up for patient safety and medical ethics. Three, I've got an impeccable clinical record, and all my appraisals have been amazing. I've got fantastic feedback from patients and staff. And four, you know, if they did come for me, frankly, come on, it's obvious what it is. You know, there's a playbook of censorship, which is you intimidate, you threaten, you investigate, you suspend, you know, you defame, you destroy their character. You know, there's a playbook. You know, you assassinate them. You know, like that, not physically. Well, maybe. So you know, if that's what they're going to be doing, that's obvious to me, and they'll be bullying. And you know, I've told you how I deal with bullies. You know, I stand up to them.
Yes, yeah, just on that, I think the other thing is that the whole atmosphere is changing. You know, the injections aren't really available anymore like they used to be. And then also, just to remind you, there was Dr. Anthony Hinton. There was also Dr. Sam White, who's a GP. He spoke up very early on. And Dr. Muhammad Adil,
yes,
a surgeon. And I don't know if he's able to practice as yet, but he said from the start, you know.
So absolutely. So I think the culture has changed. But I'm hoping more people are going to wake up, and I'm not just talking about doctors. You know, I think every institution and profession is really guilty of a couple of things, such as professional hubris. I'm talking about lawyers. I'm talking about doctors. Yeah, they think we're smart, we're clever. Look how good and clever we are. We know better. You know, that professional arrogance needs to go. The other thing is groupthink. And again, you can see this amongst academics and doctors and journalists, where, you know, people tend to want to go along with the herd. No one wants to stand out of the crowd in fear of whatever recrimination affecting their career, whatever. These qualities aren't good. You know, groupthink, professional hubris, it causes harm. And all of these institutions and professions have to have a deep self-reflection and, you know, try and change. Now, I don't know how, but it has to. We need to, you know, and our education system needs to change. I think, you know, you talk about homeschooling. I think part of the problem with our education system is it's almost heading towards that whole Singapore, Japanese, you know, conform, obey, don't think out of the box. I think, you know, when I was growing up as a kid, you know, I had a great education. We were told to think out of the box, very lateral thinking, and, you know, creativity was, you know, encouraged. And I think now it's all about conform, you know, follow the orders and follow the diktats. And especially, for example, in medicine, you know, you've got doctors coming out who I would argue aren't really that intelligent. They're just really good at remembering things. You know, intelligence, I think, is a different thing. And just being able to memorize and recall information isn't actually intelligence. And a lot of the medical system now is all about guidelines and protocols. Follow these protocols. A, B, C, pathway D. There's no individual thought process going on here. And I also don't like that whole protocol-driven thing because it's a blanket. All patients are treated the same, and we're not. Human beings are different. They vary. And take, for example, the risk of COVID. It was very different if you're elderly and obese with multiple comorbidities and vitamin D deficient compared to someone young, fit, handsome like you. Okay? So I think just treating everybody the same was wrong. And, we shouldn't have that. Individualized healthcare is what you want, not this blanket policy of everybody get this,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you said about people waking up. I think that's happening more and more. I notice in my office, my large social work office with many, many different social work teams, the ones who are falling ill are the ones who had the injections, not the ones who who didn't have the injections. I go into people's houses, they say, oh, don't come because we've tested positive for COVID. I say, listen, I'm fine. I got natural immunity. I'm really robust. Nothing happens to me. But meanwhile, my injected colleagues, they're the ones falling ill again and again and again and again. And then also there's what you mentioned earlier, the sudden death, the injuries. I've got 38 personal contacts that have been hurt or injured by these injections, including one person who died. It was clearly the injection. Really, really healthy people. They go and have the injections and they break out in rashes or have all sorts of problems. And 3 of them, their doctors have said it's because of the injections. But like you said, the doctors aren't speaking out. Now, those people, like one of them is a cousin of mine, and I spoke to my cousins, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. They gave me loads of pushback. Now they shut up. Now I get no pushback. I say, listen, you want to listen to the conspiracy prophet in your midst, right? You should home educate. You should have bought Bitcoin when I told you. And cut out the naan and have lots of ghee, right? Now, they haven't bought that one yet, right? And don't have these toxic injections. But people are waking up because the other cousins have noticed what's happened to this cousin. But what can people do? Because I want to move it on to, okay, that episode is now finishing. We're now dealing with the legacy of that episode and whatever is coming down the line, right? What can people do? And, what can we do to be healthy? And I know it ties in with what I think the next path that you're going to be traveling on.
Yeah, well, that's actually really insightful. You really are a little prophet, aren't you?
I'm a conspiracy prophet, okay? Not just a regular prophet.
It's a shame. I was going to ask you what are the numbers for the lottery this weekend. Listen, so I've been on my own journey like you. So I was very overweight. I was type 2 diabetic, hypertensive, didn't sleep. Sleep was for the weak. I worked 6 days a week. I maybe slept about 4 hours a night. I was always sick, always tired. I felt awful, really old. And one day I came home, he was sitting on my sofa. He was up late, 10 o'clock. He was in a lot of pain. He had cancer, he was dying of cancer. And he said, beta means son, what are you doing? You've got a beautiful wife sleeping. You haven't seen her this morning. I know you left before she woke up. You've got a beautiful daughter. You haven't seen her either. You're fat. Look at you. You're fat. He just said it like, he's a Glaswegian. You look like shit, and you're just about to eat at 10 o'clock at night. Then you're going to sit down, do your emails and everything. Take it from me. I've only got a few months left to live. I'm a dying man. This is not how to live your life.
What a
you need to wake up and change. And I swear, I spent the whole night just lying there in bed. I couldn't sleep. I was just like, what the heck? He's right. What the hell am I doing? And then one of the other things he had said to me was, what is it working like this? Are you chasing money? You think you're going to take the money to the grave? Is it because you want to be a big man, a big surgeon? You think that's going to matter when you're dead? And so these things were all in my, and then I had to break it down. I was like, why am I doing it? Well, I've got a busy private practice, and that's actually what pays the bills. I love working in the NHS and being able to help people who can't afford. But I'm doing this at the expense of my health and my time with my family. Something needs to give. Where does all my stress come from? I'm very stressed. Well, 99% of it comes from working in the NHS, where I have all the responsibility but no power, where efficiency and hard work is rewarded, but laziness and inefficiency is rewarded. Yeah, and where it's all double speak, they don't really want to help patients. They want to save money for the hospital. And more, the managers are stripping my ability to treat patients like family, and I have to do as they tell me. I used to have my own waiting list. I used to book my own patients, and they took that away from me. All that kind of stuff. There's so much more I could talk about. I don't want to talk about it. And it's corrupt. I don't want to go into this either. It is very corrupt. So the next day I left the NHS, and a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. My income dropped by half. But I thought the way I managed that is to live a very simple lifestyle. No expensive holidays, no expensive cars, and monthly rentals, and just keep an easy, simple life. And then I started researching about how to get healthy, and my wife and I started intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day. I exercise every day. Got a strength coach in. He taught me all the exercises. I looked at the diet, the nutrition. I cut out all the rapeseed oil and vegetable oils. I went back to normal fats and ghee and beef tallow and stuff like that. Sourced all my meat from a local farm, which is pasture-fed, organic. Started distilling my water. Started sleeping like 10 to 6. I sleep like a baby. I wake up every morning at 6. I get into a cold bath. Suddenly, I lost 16 kilograms in weight. Everybody kept telling me, "You look so young. You look amazing. What are you doing?" All my clothes don't fit anymore. I had to go shopping to get new clothes. My wife looks hot. It's like, and I was like, wow, I've just suddenly, for the first time in my life, I've had a very difficult relationship with food all my life, up and down, and trying to diet, trying to exercise, and just up and down, and suddenly I realized what it was to be healthy and how to be healthy. And I thought, I wasn't actually taught any of this in med school. No. Fucking hell. This is basic stuff. They should be teaching this in school. They should be teaching this to all the kids. This isn't rocket science. Why has something so simple and so beautiful been hidden in the shroud of mystery? And then when they do dangle health to you, it's actually anything but that. It's not health. This is the greatest deception and con. So that's why if you go to my Twitter account, my pinned tweet is my simple guide to good health. Note it's simple. And it's funny you should say this. I've been toying with the idea over the last few days. I'm going to write a book about this. I'm going to write a book about a simple guide to breaking down, maybe adding some scientific references for those people who want the proof. But it's, I think everyone should become healthy and fit, because if these jabs are going to be doing anything, and it looks like they are, it looks like they're affecting the immune system, and the IgA and IgM ratios are going through the roof and whatever, and terrible cancers, and it's downplaying your immune system and all that kind of stuff. Look, all I know is even more reason for every single person to take charge of their health, boost their natural immune system. Look, there's a lot of doomsayers out there like, oh, we're pure blood, everyone's going to be dead in 2 years and blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you one thing. The human body is freaking resilient. It's a miracle. It's a miracle of bioengineering. God, nature, whatever you want to call it, has created this just incredible machine. And it just shows you, look, every day people are eating shit. They're going into Burger King, McDonald's, putting crap in their bodies, vaping, drinking, and they're still functioning. You tell me the most expensive, most amazing car that you could get, and you throw shit into that fuel cap, right? And it still runs perfectly fine. It won't. You put in milk, you put in, a pint of milk into any car, it won't start, right?
By the way, don't do this at home. This is
but what I'm trying to say is, just see what I mean. Just see how incredible your body is, that despite putting all this shit, we can still walk and function. So have faith in your body, have some belief in your body, and do everything possible to help it. Go clean. And the thing is, it takes discipline and it takes focus. It's not easy, but the alternative is to be lazy, undisciplined, give in to temptation and convenience, and then pay for it. And if you want to pay for it, well, again, it's all about taking responsibility. Yes, we were coerced into taking these jabs, but no one's coercing you to vape or watch Celebrity Love Island or this other crap. And the reason why I say Celebrity Love Island, it's not just about physical health, Rich. I mean, I think you know about this. You know, people like us are quite awake to this. It's the whole spiritual mind element too. You know, you need to look after your mind, and the toxins for the mind are mainstream media, as far as I'm concerned. You know, the news. I mean, I went to my in-laws for Christmas, and sadly, they like to watch the BBC. And I haven't watched the BBC for years, and I just caught the beginning of it as I was going up to bed, and it was like I heard it, and it was like, oh my God, the tension that's putting me. Just listen now if you want, the viewers. The beginning of the BBC. Dun, dun, dun. What the fuck is that all about? It puts the fear of God into you. The whole thing is wired to make you anxious and stressed, to make you depressed. It's all fucking miserable news they're telling you. There's nothing happy. If you watch the news, you think the world is just miserable and everyone's horrible. The reality is it can be further from the truth. You walk out in the sunlight, you watch the majesty of the sunrise, you walk in the woods and the fields, you listen to nature and the birds, you meet other people, you smile, you chat. Well, it's a good place. It's the very small number of people who are creating this illusion. The news is, manufacturing this fake world. So the spiritual aspect of it is cut out the mainstream media, cut out the rubbish, the stupid radio, the junk fake music that's out there, the fake culture, and get into nature, connect with people, get off the phones. And suddenly the world is a lot better. Your mind will start to relax and you'll become a happier person. So, all these pandemics that we're seeing are obesity, heart disease, depression, anxiety, love. There's a pandemic of broken relationships. People have forgotten what it's like to love someone because they're consuming too much porn. They're consuming too much social media. All of these things are giving false, fake dopamine hits. So you become emotionally, psychologically, not stunted, but blunted. There's no fire in you anymore. There's no passion. So what happens is you get depressed, you get anxious, and guess what they do? They give you antidepressants and anxiolytics and whatever. And guess what they do? They cause emotional blunting too.
Yeah.
And why is that dangerous? Because when the government comes and takes away your freedoms and your rights and your ability to travel, and your ability to go anywhere and work and go to the pub, you don't feel anything. You're just passive. You're blunted. You accept it. There's no fire in you. There's no outrage.
That's very good, because if there's no fire in lots and lots of individuals, then there's no fire in the group, and the unity is our strength.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to what I was talking about, look, you want to be spiritually, physically, mentally as healthy as possible. Now, listen, I don't know about your background, but I am not a Muslim anymore. Mm-hmm. But I believe in God. I hope they exist. Mm-hmm. And I know that might upset a few people, but everyone to their own. But
it'll upset a lot of Muslims, I can tell you that. You can't leave the faith according to Islam, right?
Well, I might make the majority of Muslims happy when I say I left the Ahmadi cult. So a lot of your Muslims might be like, yay,
yay, okay,
yay, he's an okay fellow now. So, I think another reason.
By the way, Ahmad, if I can just say, so the Ahmadi cult is a group, mostly I think based in Pakistan, that isn't recognized as Muslim by the rest of the Muslim world because they had a subsequent prophet after the Holy Prophet, and Muslims say no, the Holy Prophet Muhammad was the last one, so they don't recognize them as Muslims at all. So if you renounce being Ahmadi, then the Muslims will be happy. And also for people who know, right, Islam, I think in Saudi Arabia and some other Muslim states, apostasy, like the renunciation of Islam, gets you the death penalty.
I better not go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I better not go to Saudi Arabia, right? So you cannot leave the faith.
So the thing is, growing up in Glasgow to an immigrant, family, parents, in a rough working class area, they wanted to protect us and our culture. I was the only, we were the only white kid and Asian kids in this white school in this white neighborhood, and we didn't know any better. We just thought anti-Muslims. Everyone was an anti-Muslim if they were a Muslim. I didn't know that there was.
We know you're a white supremacist, right?
Yeah, I know exactly. Well, the funny thing is, when I was 4 or 5, when I went to school, my favorite color was green as a kid, still is, and I went to school wearing a green T-shirt, and I grew. The school was in the shadows of Ibrox, which is Rangers, Protestant. So all these kids came up to me, Billy and Andrew and Jimmy, and they're all like, what are you wearing a green t-shirt for? And I was like, because it's my favorite color. Are you a Catholic? Are you a Pope lover? And I'm like, who's the Pope? You know, I'm just a little kid. I have no idea who they were talking about. And they said, so you're not a Catholic? I went, I think I'm a Muslim. Muslim. Are you a Protestant Muslim? And I was like, yeah, I think I am. And this was my upbringing. This was my childhood. So I didn't actually really meet other Muslims until I went to university. And so now I'm at university, and they're like, "What kind of Muslim are you?" I'm like, "I'm a Muslim." No, but what type? I mean, I think you mean like anti-Muslim. And they're like, "Oh, you're not a Muslim." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean? I'm not a Muslim?" And so that was a bit of a wake-up call. But you know, when you're born into something, you don't know any different. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, even as a child, it didn't fit easily with me. I didn't understand why they wanted us to go out and preach and, you know, this evangelical way of, we need to convert everyone. I didn't get that. I also, even as a child, didn't understand the obsession with money. You need to pay your alms. You need to pay your alms. And there's lots of things like that. And as I grew up as an adult, I just thought, this is just ridiculous. This is, you know, you've got a person at the top of the, you know, community who you cannot question. If you question that person, that's heresy. If you question them, you'll be ostracized and banned from the community and punished. You know, and that's what a cult is. And I think, you know, having left that cult, I kind of recognize the forming of a new cult when it happens. And don't get me wrong, there was a COVID cult. You know, you had the leaders at the top. It doesn't have to be one person. You got like Fauci saying, literally, I am science. You know, you might as well say, I am God. You know, you can't question the people at the top. And if you do, guess what happens? You get punished, you get banished, you get deplatformed, you get you know, censored. There's also an unhealthy obsession with money. So, you know, money's being made by this whole business. And we just need to look at, you know, the PPE and the testing and the jabs. You know, there's money. There's a lot of money in it. So I think having been in a cult, you know, I think I quickly recognized another cult.
Can I just say that? Are you familiar with Quakerism?
Yes.
Okay, because I went to meetings for 10 years. And what happened was, I don't think I've ever shared this on my channel before, but my first son died. He was born full term, no issues during the pregnancy, but he didn't have the ability to swallow. And you don't learn that. So slowly over time, his lungs filled up and he died after 5 weeks. And I was devastated. And, you know, I was pissed off with life, pissed off with marriage, pissed off with God, right? Just pissed off. And a friend of mine said to me, you know, I went into therapy and the therapist said, you need to restore your relationship to God. So I start going to the mosque again, but it doesn't do it for me. It's just, I just like, this is the way. And I'm like, wait a minute, what about these other people that I know and love, right? So then a friend of mine said, well, try the Quakers. I thought, Quakers? All right. What was it about the Quakers? What do they do? They sit in silence. Okay. Do they tell you that Jesus is the Son of God? No. They just sit in silence. So I thought, okay. So I went and it was profound, absolutely profound. Just sat. And for 10 years I went. I was never asked to become a Quaker. They knew I was a Muslim. At one point, I was even the safeguarding lead for that meeting area. And the principles of the Quaker, I did some research. And I argue, you know, people like Tony Blair, who professed to be a Catholic, George Bush, born again Christian, Osama bin Laden, Netanyahu, all killing in the name of God, all killing other human beings. And the Quakers are like, we're all children of God. Therefore, we honor all people. We're militantly pacifist because it's not for us to pass judgment and kill another child of God. Jesus came with God's message, which is love. Okay, that's pretty cool. Each person has their own relationship with God. So there's no dogma. There's no, you got to do this, you got to do that. They don't celebrate Christmas because Jesus is for every day, not just Christmas.
It's like Valentine's Day.
That's right. Don't worry about getting into heaven. Yeah. Work for justice on earth right now. So they're actively involved in all sorts of movements for, you know, justice and equality and anti-war. They're not materialistic because they say that stuff just gets in the way of your relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And we don't evangelize. Yeah. and I can imagine so that I wouldn't have any complaints from my Auntie G in Pakistan. What is this Quaker meeting you go to? What do you do there? Auntie, I just sit in silence. Okay. And do they tell you Jesus is the Son of God? No, they don't say anything. And I've never met another Muslim at a Quaker meeting apart from a friend and a cousin that came along with me, right? But I met Buddhists at Quaker meetings. It's just come along. And there's something that happens because they say Jesus came to give us God's message, which is love. And how we hear that is just by sitting in silence and listening to the Spirit. So they just sit in silence.
The whole time. They just stay there.
And
no one says anything.
Well, okay, so there's 30 to 40, 30 to 40 people in the meetings I used to attend for an hour sitting in silence. Sometimes somebody may say something, they're moved by the Spirit, and they stand up and say something, and then they sit down. It's not a dialogue. I remember attending, it's so funny because my wife is Christian, and we would get together with her family on Christmas Day, and they'd do all the Christmas thing, and I'd kind of watch. And then I'm the one who goes to the Quaker service, and the Muslim is the one who goes to the Quaker service, the Christian service on Christmas Day, because they're at home celebrating the feast of Santa Claus, right? I said, somebody's got to do something godly in remembrance of Christ. All right, I'll do it, right? So, I remember one Christmas Day service I went to many years ago, and somebody stood up and said, listen, the war in Iraq and Afghanistan is raging right now. We have to think of our soldiers that are out there that are getting hurt and injured, and of their families back home. But also we have to think of the Afghanis and the Iraqis and what they're going through. I'm like, well, that's just love for universal humanity. I can go along with that. I don't want British soldiers going abroad to kill other people. I want them, they should be doing something more useful back home, or just, I don't know, marching in a parade or something.
That's one of the problems that I find with all organized religions, that it's kind of like a membership of a club, and we're the best club, and everyone else is inferior to us, and they're wrong, and we're right. And it's Ahmadi, Muslim, Christian,
Judaism.
Everyone thinks they're the best. And I just feel, it's actually a lot of what religion is about is shaming you, guilting you, and controlling you. It's a beautiful tool of controlling the masses. And some people say, well, there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of it. I was like, well, it's very hard to sell a membership if there's no benefits. You need some benefits.
Yeah.
And I think too much of religion is dividing people. And since I've left all organized religions, I find I just love more of humanity. I see beauty and love in everyone and everything and all faiths. And I don't want to be tied down to any particular scripture, if that makes sense.
Well, here's the deal about Quakerism. You can be an atheist and attend. You can be a devout Muslim or a Jew or a Buddhist. They love all the peoples, and no one's ever going to say to you, would you like to become a Quaker? I was an attender, and I had full rights, equal rights to anybody who was a Quaker. And which I just think is amazing. When it was launched, it was incredibly revolutionary because it was a threat to the established church and the clergy, because you don't have clergy.
Yeah.
It's not my relationship to God, however I create it and then fulfill it.
You have that conduit. It's direct.
It's direct, which is kind of true, because God doesn't need to
exactly
in the Pope's ear to pass a message on, right? He can speak to us all, however we create him. So a Buddhist or a Hindu can go Quaker meetings and stuff. And I found it very, very profound. And then the other thing, when I was looking into Quakerism, I couldn't find an example of it being distorted in order to justify the killing of others. And I think it might be because their central tenets are so antithetical to that. And then what I did find is how Quakers have been actively involved in things like the anti-apartheid movement, in bringing, one of the things Quakers do is they act as observers at checkpoints in Israel. They don't do anything, but they believe that their presence moderates the behavior of the Israeli Defense Force in how they interact with Palestinians. They were actively involved in the Underground Railway, in liberating slaves in the United States. I think William Wilberforce.
I didn't know this. I didn't know.
Well, they don't evangelize.
You're doing a great job for them.
No, don't go, don't become one.
I love it.
It's just absolutely incredible. Maybe I should start going back. But the thing that you said about, if I may say a little bit about what I do for health, right? About what you said about spiritual, right? Because it doesn't have to be through an organized religion. No. It doesn't have to be through Christianity or Islam or Hinduism. It can be through some sort of meditative practice or a spiritual practice, something like that. It can be, for me, working as a social worker, I am doing God's work. I work with the most distressed, disadvantaged families of all. And the children in distressed households, they don't even have a bloody vote, and they don't have any economic power. So let me do what I can with what's available to make a difference to them. And I find it very fulfilling and bloody tough. So something spiritual like that. Then also, you said cold water showers. I have a neighbor who's built a pond, a swimming pond, and I've been going in since August, and I've been going all the way through winter. And
have you been doing it with their permission, or are you just sneaking in?
No, I've been doing it at his invitation. At his invitation.
I just imagine you like sneaking in.
That's right. Just jumping in, right? But when early December, when there was ice, and the ice in his pond was like 3 or 4 inches deep, I swear I didn't swim a lot, right? But so I do cold water swimming.
Yeah,
my son's 18, and a few months ago he convinced me to join him doing Muay Thai, which is just brutal. We're getting beaten by my son. It's really brutal.
It's like that. I started jiu-jitsu last year. It's been over a year now. It's the exact same. And, I wanted to do it for my girls, and again, for bullying and, not physical, but the thing is, if you physically know how to defend yourself, it gives you confidence to speak up and just say, no, don't do that. Stop that. So I wanted to get my girls in. What's the best way to get your girls in? You go, you come back home with a gi on, and the girl's like, what's that? I want to do that, Daddy. So, and then I thought, how do I get my wife to do it? And my wife, exact same psychology. I said, I'm going to be doing jiu-jitsu with the girls. And her response was, well, maybe I want to do it too. So now we all do. And the reality is, I think it's really helped our marriage, having your wife choking you out. Yeah, it's good. The glee that I see on her face as she's doing it is just hilarious. I'm like, are you enjoying this? She's like, yeah. Yeah, I think like having physical pursuits and having a bit of some difficulty in your life, which then builds resilience. I think part of the problem with society is we're just so goddamn soft. Everything's so convenient and easy. And, we don't have, it's only when you have challenges and adversities and difficulties that you get forged and tempered and get stronger. These scars in life make you tough. Whereas if it's just all softy soft, you don't value things. You don't appreciate what we have,
Well, have you heard that hard men make good times, and then good times make soft men, and soft men make bad times. Yeah, make hard times, and I think we've got
bad times.
We got bad times because of people, right? No resilience, bloody snowflakes. You're hurting my feelings. I'm triggered because just the way you spun on that chair. That's just racist, transphobic, typical white supremacist. You are.
Yeah. Don't forget Nancy.
Oh yeah, that as well, right? But the other thing I think is really important is focusing on personal development as well. My own personal growth. My wife and my children, we've done that a lot through Landmark. I've done the Gallup Strengths Finder. Then there's also Wim Hof, and then food. I have experimented loads. I don't care what they say in the book. I want to test it out. So I've been vegan for a year. I've been vegetarian for 4 years. And being vegan for a year means vegans can't get anything past me. I'm sorry.
Were you suffering with mental illness at the time?
No. Well, I was at university.
That was a joke.
That might have been it, right?
That was a joke.
But that was in the late 80s, right? I was a vegan, right? And vegetarian for 4 years, and then food combined, raw food, fruit only, done all sorts of stuff. And then primal, paleo, keto, and now I would say I'm keto carnivore, or keto fruito. I eat meat and fruit. I'm trying to cut down on my plant intake, but you can't have a decent masala without onions and garlic and ginger.
I think there's never going to be a right or wrong answer. I've been like you. I think we're mainly omnivores, okay?
Yeah.
So, and bioavailability, protein from meat and pasture-fed beef is incredible, okay? And eggs, the best protein bowl you can ever get.
This month, I am, okay, if those of you with sensitive nervous disposition, watch out. I've taken on for the month of March, every day I'm going to have a minimum of 12 raw egg yolks.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to have other stuff as well, but I have to have a minimum of 12 raw egg yolks. Because stuff I've come across is like I've known this for a while, they're incredibly nutrient dense. Everything, pretty much, all the proteins that we need, high fat. I can have egg white if I want, but it's the egg yolks where all the nutrient is. Yeah. So yesterday I actually had 24 egg yolks.
Whoa. Whoa.
And 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 I'm going to see, and I may carry it on as an operative practice forever. They're just really good.
So all my kids get eggs every day. I love eating eggs every day. So eggs, meat, fat, get rid of all the seed oil. I kind of like having raspberries and blackberries and blueberries, 3-4 times a week. It's got a lot of antioxidants, it's really good for you. I'm not gonna lie to you, once a week I'll have like a roast and have Savoy cabbage and garlic beans, but we're not going hard, heavy, just a little bit on the side, and it's mainly meat. But
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, even bread. I will bake sourdough bread once a week. I'll have a slice of toast, but it's all organic, whole wheat. I've made it from scratch. There's no preservatives. It's got a very low glycemic index, very low gluten level. So it's not the stuff it's not the bread you're eating from the high street with sliced rubbish.
So you just reminded me of when I go to Pakistan. Oh my god, just meat and mangoes. I went in June last year, and my aunt says, "Baby, why are you coming in June? It's 40-45 degrees. Why are you coming in June?" Auntie, mangoes. Okay. That's it. Meat, mangoes.
Can I tell you a story about mangoes?
Good.
So I'm in Karachi. I'm visiting some family member. I'm only a kid. I'm like 10, 11 years old. Some relative of my mum's. And the guy whose house we're staying at goes to me, "Beta, come on, eat this mango. It's the king of fruit." I'm like, "Oh, I don't like mango." He goes, "See, this is what happens when you're born in Scotland. You don't have any Pakistani genes in you anymore. How can you not like mango?" I'm just looking at him going, "What are you talking about, me?" And he goes, "Listen, while you're staying in our house for the next 3 days, you're going to have mango for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm going to show you all the different ways to eat mango." And then that's what we did. He did it where you slice the top, you mush it up, then you suck it, you dice it, you slice it, you make it into a smoothie. You ate it with paratha. After the 3 days, he goes, "Do you like mango?" I went, "Like mango."
I need their address. I need to visit.
It was good mango, I have to admit. And I kind of needed that, just like coffee for the first time. I'll tell you a story about coffee. So I've gone to the hospital for the first time as a med student, and the consultant is the father of a boy that I was friends with at school. And he goes, "You're Douglas's friend." I went, "Yeah, great. Come over here, son." He was very nice to me. Alistair Beatty's his name. And there were 6 of us in this group, medical students. We all sit down in the doctor's room, and he goes, "Here's a mug, here's a mug, here's a mug." And he puts this, Nescafe ground coffee, instant coffee business, 1 spoon into our mugs. Comes down with the hot water and then the milk, sugar, no thanks. And he goes, "Right, drink up, everybody." Everyone's drinking, I'm drinking. I'm like, "What is this? Poison." Okay, so the next day, he does the same. And he goes, "Yours has got a tea bag in it." I went, "Yeah, I drink tea." He goes, he goes, "What?" He fishes his tea bag out and throws it in the bin. Now, see the difference between 1995 and now. Can you imagine? That'd be bullying, harassment.
Oh, you're racist, throwing out my tea bag.
Yeah. So I'm just like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "I'm a consultant. I'm making a medical student a cup of coffee. You should be goddamn grateful." And then so he put the coffee in. He went, "I want you to drink it up." Okay, and I drank it. And we did this for the next 4 weeks. And at the end, he goes, "Son, one day you'll appreciate what I did for you. You'll survive on coffee. When you're doing those night shifts, you'll be surviving on coffee." He goes, "One day you might even drink proper coffee, and you'll look back and remember the story and be grateful." You know what? Can I be honest? I am. It was abuse, but he was right. And now I get my coffee delivered every week, fresh beans roasted. We grind them up and I have a proper brew first thing in the morning, and I smell the beans and I think of him.
So good. That's so cool. Well, something else you said about gratitude, because gratitude is really, really good for the soul. Good for me when I express it, good for the listener. And actually, just reminding me, I need to go and give blood, because donating blood is really good for my health and also for whoever receives it, because they're getting pure blood as well, right? So hopefully it'll work out for them. But I'm great. We've done an hour. We could talk for ages and ages and ages, right? But I'm conscious of the time. I'm really grateful for this conversation. I had no idea where it was going to go. We've said stuff that I wouldn't normally cover. Is there anything you want to say before we?
No, I think your listeners should know. We talked. Should we decide what we're going to talk about? And I said to you, no, let's just keep it natural. Let's flow and chat. It's all good.
Yes.
We can talk another time, another day.
Sure, absolutely. And I look forward to to when you launch your podcast, do let me know. In the meantime,
it's going to happen. Like, I mean, the problem is, see, if you look, it's a lot of the gear is all ready and everything. I've got the laptops and everything. So I was planning on doing it as audio only. And I made the mistake of doing a Twitter poll and audio, both, or video. 80% of people said video as well, please.
Yeah, I will talk to you.
Yeah, so now I'm going to get some cameras and I need to look at the
I
video.
will talk to you about it.
And
Aram se ro, bhai. Aram se ro. Be easy. Don't worry. I'll talk to you about it. Okay. It's much, much simpler. Okay. And you can get going. But I'll have your Twitter handle. And I do recommend you go and follow him on Twitter. Follow me as well on Twitter. Please give us any comments, questions, because this video has been a little bit different. And just a reminder, I do cover politics on my channel. I cover finances. And this is a very interesting financial time we're going through. And I also cover crypto and health. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with good health and freedom. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Ahmad signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.